My name is Yvonne Yabawa, and I'm a Black British Ghanaian woman.
I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, but I've been living in London for the last 23 years.
I am Black, African, born and raised in Freetown, Sierra Leone.
I'll describe myself as Black African from my ethnicity perspective.
I'm from Malaysia and Indian by ethnicity.
I was born here in the UK to parents who both hailed from the Caribbean.
I'm Malaysian, but I'll describe myself as Malaysian Chinese because my grandparents were originally from China.
A common microaggression is the application of a slightly different hurdle or slightly different bar to Black people, and sometimes it's subtle.
Examples of microaggressions I have faced include people telling me I speak well.
I still get asked where I am from, and it's not satisfactory for me to say that I am from London or the UK, or even to say that I am from Malaysia.
It ranges from people making comments such as, are you from the ghetto? Or you're well spoken for a Black person.
When you're told things about a cultural fit when you're assessed for a role.
I know of many non-English professionals and colleagues, whether African or Asian, who have long since given up expecting people to try and find out or to pronounce their name correctly.
I've been told before that I was not able to attend meetings because of a language barrier or perceived language barrier, in my opinion.
And to other things, such as when I'm walking down the street in a suit and tie, and you see a woman coming up ahead of you, and you can see that she actually takes her purse from one side, switches it to the other, and grasps it that little bit closer.
Or being asked if I'm okay with bland food, as if chili needs to be in everything I eat.
Someone was delivering a package, and before he could feel comfortable enough to leave the package with me and head off, he just had to apply one final check, which was, "Excuse me, do you work here?"
Be prepared to understand your privileges, even when you're not aware that you have them.
And that's because we all have privileges.
It's about recognizing the privileges afforded to you and choosing to use that privilege to promote good and fight systemic racism.
One would argue that the more senior one is within the organization, the more privileges and influence and platforms comes with that.
To me, a race ally is someone who practices micro-inclusion.
A race ally for me is someone who doesn't give me any special treatment. It's someone who treats me just like anyone else.
You have supporters, and then you have advocates. Supporters are the people that are there to be a sounding board, or generally sympathise and empathise with you, but it's really the advocates that are important. The advocates are the people that will have those challenging conversations.
It is about taking on the issue of racism and oppression and making it your own, even though you never truly understand the damage that it does.
It requires individuals who haven't been through this experience themselves to understand what the issues are and champion these in scenarios, in forums where these underrepresented groups are not there to express some of the hurdles.
Talk less and listen more.
When someone tells you a story and says, in this situation, I felt marginalized. In this situation, the person was being racist. Take it for what it is. Only that person can tell you what they were truly feeling and what they truly experienced.
And they take that extra step and make extra effort to really build strong relationships and connections with people who are different to them.
To speak up, work collaboratively with people of other races and understand their perspective.
Remember, at any point in your life when you've been marginalized, when someone's made an assumption on you about your background, about your level of knowledge, about your likeness, remember how that feels and think about feeling that every single day.
So the next time you notice a colleague being frustrated when dealing with people of colour, perhaps with a thick or Asian or Jamaican accents compared to folks with thick European accents, as someone who aspires to be a good white ally, what are you going to do about it?
Whenever there's an instance of inequality or bias or microaggression, those allies react to those situations, call those out, and actually make the workplace more inclusive and better for everyone.
Be prepared to feel uncomfortable, to be in uncomfortable situations and conversations.
And most importantly, know that it's okay to make mistakes. It's better to have tried than to be silent.
If you see talent in someone who hasn't promoted themselves and you're in a position to highlight their ability or their potential, then do so.
By sponsoring that person. And what that really means is just advocating for that person behind closed doors to other people, which can really help them in their career.
And champions really are even more proactive. So rather than reacting to an incident, they proactively look for biases in processes and systems and eliminate those to make the processes better.
Challenge the status quo. Take risks. Openly talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion.
And to be visible role models so that the staff feel safe in expressing their concerns. So when it comes to allies, I believe we all have a role to play, from being passive non-racist to moving to an active anti-racist.
I think it's just great to see when you have a workplace and you do see people from different racial backgrounds building really strong connections with each other.
It matters because it helps create equitable, high-performing workplaces where unconscious bias is minimized.
Making sure that our table represents the customer base we serve and represents society.
I think this is new ground that we're stepping on in terms of trying to really confront this head on, trying to have these discussions in the workplace, in the boardroom. It's new.
Every time change has been needed, you need a critical mass of people to say, enough is enough, we want change.
And very much like compound interest, the small steps that we take today will be worth much, much more in the years to come.
But just like has been done for a number of causes before, this needs to happen now.
And that's why it's so incredibly important that we all pull together to make the change that we'd all like to see.
I'll end by suggesting why it's important that these messages are shared by race allies and advocates as well as people like me. You see, I would say that, wouldn't I? I stand to gain, don't I? That simple fact means that you saying the same thing will always have more credibility.
Get involved and stay involved and continue educating others about the many guises in which racial discrimination exists.